Hey, it's Simon from the Caddis Fly Shop and the Oregon Fly Fishing Blog, and today I'm going to be tying a inverted yellow Sally or a golden stone or small golden stone, and I'm going to be using this cool new thing called the Hareline Tungsten Stout Ribbed Body, or the Stout Body, and it's this little weighted body with the weight is in the front, so it'll flip it like a jig. Really cool body to add some weight if you don't want to bead, and it'll turn your traditional nymph hooks upside down. So it's a cool kind of newer product they have, and we're going to show you a pattern with it. Okay, so to start, I'm using a standard nymph hook from Kona. Any standard straight shank nymph hook will work, but I'm using the Kona BSN 10. Any size 10 straight shank nymph hook will work though. So to start, I'm using some cream colored Danville 70 denier thread, and we're going to start by tying our thread in, and I'm going to use some Hareline gold stripped goose biots for the antennas and the tails. So first we're going to tie those in. And so this fly is going to be inverted, so tying this stuff in upside down will help a bit. So first we'll start by tying these. Now that we have these antenna and biots in, we're going to want to flip it over if you have a rotary vise, or take your hook out and flip it over. And then I like to use, we're going to use some head cement. I normally use UV glue, but since we're going to be putting the tungsten body on top of it, we won't be able to cure it, so you're going to have to use some other type of adhesive like head cement or UV glue. Then when we put this on, we don't want to get too close. We want to leave a little bit of space for the head and to tie off. So right about here is good. And then we have enough space for the back of the abdomen here, so that's good. So we're going to tie that on real tight and then just wrap down to the back. Kind of try to cover the back with some thread for when we build our dubbing up on it. And then looking pretty good here. So now we have something for the dubbing to grip onto, and so next we're going to tie in some wires, some uni soft wire in medium in gold, and we'll flip the fly over again and tie onto the bottom. I've found makes it the easiest, and we'll tie that in and wrap it to the very back, and then we will add our dubbing. And so for the dubbing, I like to use, you could use any like kind of tannish dubbing. I like this dubbing on really small stuff because it dubs really small. This, even though it's a dry dub, this microfine dry dub in Paytas tan and some of the squirrel hair and brown. So I like to mix it up a little bit. And I will start the back though by doing just a little bit of this dry dub in tan, because it can stay very small and low profile to kind of build that taper up into the body. And then I will go and add some of the brown once I do a little bit of this back here. So we're going to wrap up towards the thorax here, and then I will kind of mix some of that brown in here, kind of give it that little yellow Sally or golden stone variegation with the color. And as we go, we're just, you don't need to add too much more material because this tungsten body adds that just because of its shape. So I would keep your dubbing noodle pretty slim. When I was trying to figure out how to use this body for a pattern, I learned that you really can't use a ton of dubbing on this, which is good because you're not running through it like crazy. So we're gonna work our way up to about here because we have to leave room for the legs and all that stuff. So we'll kind of stop after this wrap and then bring the wire around and rivet to add some segmentation and also just some durability of the fly. And kind of we'll wrap this thread up here. And then again, we're going to try to cover as much of this tungsten body as we can. We'll tie off the excess wire and snip it. Okay, so then we're going to have to put in some legs. And for the legs, what I like to use is these. I really like, for nymphs, I like this barred sexy floss from MFC. Small tan is the size and color I'm using, so I will tie the leg in. This stuff, at least, kind of flares one way, and I like to have it flare out. If you're going to pick one way, it helps the legs just stick out instead of like kind of going back towards the body. So we'll wrap up to the front here, and then bring this around front. Okay, so now the legs are in. Snip that. I'm going to cut them down just to keep them out of our way. We'll adjust later. And then for the wing case, I use cinnamon tip turkey feather. I take a small cutting about this big. I'll trim off the tip and then tie this in on the top here. And then we'll dub the rest and then be done. So that same dubbing blend is what we're going to use here to kind of fill in that excess space. Again, staying slim helps because right now we're at the thickest part of the this tungsten body that we used for the weight. And the cool thing about this body is the whole reason I'm tying this upside down is because it's gonna invert the fly like a jig. So if you want your flies to ride hook point up and you don't have jigged hooks and you have a ton of these, it's a great way to flip those hooks over for yourself. And so next, what we're gonna have to do here is add just a little bit of head cement here to keep it from slipping so we can dub the rest. A little bit of this is going to show through. I think it looks kind of good because it gives it a little bit of flash and it shines a little bit, but then we're going to add the rest of our dubbing and then bring the wing case over and we'll be done. Not too much space up here, so again I like to use more of this dry stuff because I can make the noodle really, really small, the dubbing noodle. I think that helps quite a bit, so we'll add the rest of this dubbing here. And then bring the wing case over like this. And move the legs here. Snip that, and we'll just whip finish here. I like to add just a little bit of this to hide my whip finish. You don't have to do this, it's just the way I do it. If you want to do that, you kind of there we go, and so that is how you tie it. I like to add a little bit of Solaris bone dry in two places to help with a little bit of durability. First, the wing case up here. I like to coat that. And we'll cure that, and then on the back side here, in that same spot, I like to put a little bit on the spot so that dubbing doesn't slip. And then where I tied off, I always do that on all my flies to help. And that kind of does it. You can trim up the legs a little bit if you'd like. But that's the inverted yellow Sally. Super cool fly.